question.
Yeah.
Basically touched on. In terms of value engineering, crept into our industry over the last 10, 15, 20 years. It wasn't always there. And I always ask the question, why are we value engineering something that's engineering directly, which I believe should be the case in design the best way that we feel for the client.
Absolutely, bang on. Value engineering is something that we should all be doing, on day one, isn't it? I mean, there's a different discussion about how do you define value. And that's through discussion, isn't it? Is that you need to understand. That's why it's back to the project success factors, right? Because they may not be solely monetary. You've got to sit down with your client right at the beginning, get with a proper brief, and say, okay, and understand what's important to these people. What do they see as a successful project? And if it's out and out money, I want to build a 50,000 square whatever warehouse as cheap and nasty as possible. Well, that's fine. That's how they're valuing a successful project. Well, then you can align with that and go, they want cheap and nasty, give them cheap and nasty.
Assuming
if
there's
there
no
are
variations.
Yeah, if they're what you mean, client variations?
Well, like you said earlier, the people that are there at the definition stage are not necessarily the people that are there at the certification and validation stage. So in the vision of the person that's defining the scope or the spec initially, things change. Somebody might want to have a socket in a slightly different location when it's been double side boarded and decorated, and it needs a board off, and somebody needs to go back in and drop a tube in another place, and that's a change, that's a variation, that's a slightly different from what was initially proposed and signed off, maybe. But yeah, that variation piece, is, well, things do change, and we need to find a way of incorporating that. But that will have an impact on the quality, the time, and the cost.
No, you see, that's right. That's right. There's a reason for that, isn't there? Either the client decided that they wanted it somewhere else, or there hadn't been good communication within the team, and it got put in the wrong place. And that's where you get to, there's a cost. There then becomes a cost associated with an additional cost associated with somebody making a decision or a cock-up. Then that's where you get to. There's a cost that needs to be appended to someone, because that's the way we run the UK construction industry, isn't it? Which doesn't make it right and doesn't contribute to it. So going back to your point, but interestingly, Joss's point might actually lead to, and I'll go with the phrase value engineering, because then go, well, projects over budget because there's been, you mentioned one, but there's been 101 others, and all together it means that the project's over budget by whatever it might be. So we've got our value engineering.
But the budget.
So that isn't value engineering. That's just saving money. But yeah, value is So we should be doing value. I always think it's funny. Callum will appreciate this because he's probably heard me say it before. Is that they why is it that most projects we work on, particularly with contractors, and I get contractors are perhaps more financially prone. Why do they assume that we design a Rolls-Royce situation and they go back and say we'll have to make savings? Why do they not apportion us with the right credit to understand what is a successful project? If you're designing a hospital, that with an estates department, they're not going to want cheap as chips, because they've got to maintain it for the next 25, 30 years. And so you have to put those two parties, and you have to understand those things. And this is actually part of the stuff where I'm coming up. I think in this day and age, the building services engineers are more than, architect. Client wants a building, engages an architect. They design a building. Okay, they do now need to engage with the building services engineer more earlier, and they're now seeing the benefit of doing so. but historically, you know, design a building, first thing we'd know about it. I mean, I remember when I was at the Borough Council I worked for, is that, you know, I'd get a set of drawings turn up, plomping in tray on the money. We're going out, there you go, full building control stuff. We're going out to tender. We'll need some M&E. And what chance have you got at that point to deliver it successfully? Because you've probably got about, you know, 20% of the time that you need to do something. They've already decided. You go back and go, why have you got a building like that? Why don't you move it? Can you change some of that facade? And it's done because you've done this package. Well, I've done my package. But that's so the point I'm making is we have to be more, I don't know, maybe our elbows need to come out a little bit more and go, we need to be there, and bang and thumping the table a little bit about where we know there's, again, you've got to know your clients. If you're working for a contractor, you know that they're going to see value as the minimum they've got to do to satisfy the building regulations. But if you know we can do so much better, we all know. I mean, we had the building regulations last year. Prior to that, it was 2013 regulations. I mean, you could build something that was awful and still get your building regulation compliance. So yeah, interesting one. But we do need to do so. Value engineering, I think, is a really good thing. It's just we call cost cutting value engineering, you know. And once you know, value engineering should be a competent professional engineer looking and understanding what it is clients want and designing and using products and components that are the right ones to deliver the success factors that will deliver a successful project. Value engineering is just ripping costs out, and frankly, to suggest it's anything else, well, we might as well just call it what it is. When we say we've got to save costs, there's no value in that at all. You're taking value away. You know. Sorry, soapbox.
No, spot on. Yeah. Jeff, anything?
No, I certainly agree. It's a case of it's always been the case. Value engineering, even if it started in the Second World War, and it's always been. Most of my experiences, as you say, it's all the cost cutting. It's just they can't afford it in the budget. So when the budget's wrong, or just don't have the money.
Yeah.
So it's a case of diminishing down.
I mean, we're quite lucky. I mean, we're a. It comes down to people and the environment that those relationships create as to whether you can deliver a successful scheme. And you've got to decide, as I've already said, you've got to define what success is.